And I attribute a lot of my sound on the bass to my preamp. And I'm one of very few people who still only does treble boost and bass boost. I don't do a mid-range boost. And so we have, you know, our bass frequency curve and our treble frequency curve, and where they don't meet is right around 300 hertz, which is lower mids. And that is what I feel gives a lot of my instrument the big but tight sound. So the more you boosting treble and bass, by default, the more you're attenuating the mid-range. I have a reputation for how well my basses sit in the mix in the recording studio and how well they cut through in a live setting, either a small club or a big stadium. And my personal belief is that's because of the attenuation of the mid-range. The problems is that when you boost the mid-range, for the player, it sounds great. But what they can't hear on stage is that out in the house, it gets muddy, it gets lost, or in the studio, it gets lost in the mix. So the player, a lot of players boost the mid-range because it sounds great through their monitor or their in-ear monitors, but they don't realize the effect it has on the bass sitting in the mix or cutting through at front of house. So when I go on the bass forums on the internet like TalkBass, there's always the conversation that, oh, I played a Sadowsky and I don't understand what's so special about the sound. And then the other people will say, wait till you try it in a club, wait till you try it in the studio, and then they understand. And when I started working with Will Lee on his signature model, it took us really 2 years to develop his preamp because he wanted some mids. He never wanted mids for studio, but he felt he wanted more mids for live playing. And so the challenge was to give Will what he wanted without a preamp that would get players into trouble, if you know what I mean. We still wanted to be very specific with the mid boost. So I made a prototype box for Will that covered all the frequencies, and he realized the sound he was listening for was at 500 hertz. And so what we did was we made the circuit so that in the back of the bass on the control plate, you could adjust the amount of boost at 500. But if you just do that and switch it, it makes the whole bass louder. So we have a second trim pot that will lower the overall output of the preamp only when the mid is engaged, so that you're not changing the volume, you're just changing the tone when you engage the mid boost. And so so you preset how much mid boost you want, then you adjust the output of the preamp so it's the same with the mid in and with the mid out, and then it's just a little switch on the control plate. You kick it in or you kick it out. And one other thing is, I would say every other bass preamp on the market are op-amp circuits. And my circuit has always been a FET circuit, and FETs are to solid state, FET. And FETs are the equivalent of tubes in solid state circuitry. And they have a warmth that op-amps don't have. So I've prototyped so many different circuits over the years. I have never heard an op-amp circuit that could give me the Sadowsky sound. So we've always stayed with that. I will never do a preamp with a fully adjustable mid-boost where you can pick any frequency. And my circuit, unlike anybody else, is boost only. I can't imagine ever wanting to cut treble or cut bass or cut mid. So I prefer the sound. If you want to get warmer sound, I still prefer an old-fashioned passive tone control to an active cut.